Welcome back to Virtue and Victory with your hosts, Adam Farr and Doug Wong. Today's discussion is about the stoic virtue of temperance.
There's a quote by Epicurus that stands out to me. If one oversteps the bounds of moderation, the greatest pleasures cease to please. I think it's pretty deep. There's a lot to break out there. Adam, what are your thoughts on temperance?
Thanks, Doug. Welcome back, everybody. Excited to be here. Temperance. Couple of words come to mind. Moderation is one of them. Balance, harmony, modesty, self-control. A lot of different words come to mind. Temperance. We've all heard the saying, too much of anything is not good.
Mm-hmm.
Too much of a good thing is bad. That's what I think about with temperance, moderation.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think some folks can relate to it. I think about society today, in many ways, we may have lost our way and we may be overdoing it. This is ringing in the back of my mind since our last episode where you mentioned somebody gave you feedback. How does this relate to chess? And we were mentioning that we use chess to kind of model the way for ourselves. When I think about the chessboard and how this would relate, temperance to me is tactical patience. I know myself as I developed as a chess player and a lot of newer folks in chess, a big difference between the new chess player and somebody who may be a little bit more experienced is allowing things to develop in front of them versus just wanting to attack and throwing pieces at the board. So it's a lot of times I know I'm attacking chess player. My impulse is to make something happen on the board. But when we talk about tactical patience, it's really restraining yourself, waiting for the right moment, making sure that the intention, the conditions are right. And I think not only in chess, we see that in life and business. When we take temperance, we can let things develop in front of us and allow to get to a stronger position to move forward. I think you and I talk about this actually quite a bit in business and the journey that you're on and the journey that I'm on in life as well.
Yeah, we do, and it's important to reflect on it. I think the combination of the virtue of courage and the virtue of temperance or moderation from a stoic lens, so bringing courage and temperance together,
Mm-hmm.
is what makes up the discipline of desire, which I think we've talked about the discipline of desire in prior episodes. We'll have a full episode on the discipline of desire. Um, and part of the discipline of desire is knowing when to say no, having the
Mm-hmm.
discipline to say no, being able to be regularly taking stock of your life to be able to say no, whether you're at an all-you-can-eat restaurant, and just because it's all you can eat doesn't mean you should just keep going and going and going until you feel so sick that you're, not well.
Right.
Same thing in business. Same thing as in life, right? You need to know when to stop. You need to know when to say no. And so finding that balance, that moderation, that temperance in all things in life is critical. It's important.
Yeah. Life is full of choices. And a choice is not to do something. I think we always think about adding plus, 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 plus. I always like to think about things in opportunity cost. So if you're doing A, you've spent time, resources you may not have for option B. To your point, you're in all you can eat buffet. We're incentivized to eat as much as we can. Is that the right choice? Is it the healthy choice? And at what point, and I think we can all relate, does that joy and pleasure of eating something, food, become not good for you?
Right.
Right. You just don't enjoy it as much. Back to the beginning, right? Too much of a good thing is a bad thing.
And one of the things we think about in Stoicism is how temperance stands in opposition to excess.
Mm-hmm.
Right? A stoic would say no thank you when the dessert's coming out in an all-you-can-eat buffet because they've already had their fill, right?
Yeah.
The Stoics talk about this all the time in that everything is borrowed. And
Yeah.
so when you live your life in a moderate, temperate way where you regularly remind yourself that everything is borrowed, including our own life, because we're going to have to give it back to the gods or to whatever we believe in someday, all of a sudden, all the virtues start to come together, right? When we've talked about in prior episodes, um, memento mori as an example, leveraging this thought of immortality, um, to motivate us to do the things that we want to do, or mortality. I'm sorry, I said immortality. Leveraging this thought of mortality, we will die, we shall die.
Hmm.
Um, Using that as a motivator to do the things we want to do. One of the thoughts with temperance and moderation is, okay, everything in my life is borrowed, including my own life. When we realize we have to give everything back at some point, whether it's in death or prior, all of a sudden it becomes easier to hopefully enjoy the things while they last, and help us respect them more as borrowed. That's a thought I have all the time. So for example, I've got 3 young children, right? And they're growing up very, very quickly.
Yeah.
I
They
reflect
sure do.
often on how this glorious time that I have where we're all living under one roof together will eventually come to an end, right? We are raising children so that they can
Hmm.
move on and find success in life, right? Now, hopefully we always have a good, strong relationship based off of love and respect. But I reflect every day that my days are numbered with my girls in the house under one roof, because they will move on. They will go to college. They will have their own home someday. And even though we'll always be close, these days are numbered. And it helps me be a better father to reflect on that moderate view of nothing lasts forever, right? And so that's where moderation comes in, to be able to say, hey, take it slow, slow it down, enjoy this, because it won't last forever. And I think moderation, that whole discipline of desire, practicing the discipline of desire, really being thoughtful about how you're spending your time and finding that balance is important. So, for example, in business, it's helped me step back. And in the past, where I've been on the road every single week, every single day, cutting deals, negotiating big contracts, etc., I've been able to pull back from that and say, it's more important for me to be with my children. Now, I still have to travel once in a while for work. I'm open to it. I'm fine with it, but nothing like it used to be, because I stepped back and said, this stuff's not going to last forever. So let's find some moderation in the business life, so that in my personal life, that is where I place my priority, gets the attention that it should.
Yeah. You mentioned everything is borrowed. The one of the mantras I have is the rent is always due. Everything has a cost. Every decision that you make, everything that you do, and it made me think about where we are in society, with just quick hits of dopamine. We want to get quick videos. Long read of articles is less and less, like thinking through things, or just the consumerism, want to buy something to bring us that immediate gratification. I forget the lady's name. I was trying to look it up real quick, but she became famous on the minimalist um, the activity of being a minimalist at home, which is she practiced what I would say is a good idea for a stoic standpoint, the art of the pause. She would ask people to hold their possession for a moment and ask if it brings them joy. If it doesn't bring them joy, that they should discard it and kind of like declutter their life. And I think it's an important practice. A lot of times you just want to act. That's impulsive. Like we just want to move very quickly. The example I always kind of think about is if you're walking through the grocery store, they have the impulse buys right next to you, like the sodas and the candy bars. It's really easy to pick it up. I'm not saying you don't pick it up. I'm just saying you pause and just think it through. Maybe count to 10. Maybe if you still think it's a good idea, this is what I tell people, right? You do you, boo. But you understanding what the cost is and if it's truly bringing you the thing that you want it to bring.
Mm-hmm.
Businesses are guilty of this as well. We see it a lot. We've talked about it. You chase the quarterly earnings report, you make short term decisions. Does it set you up for long term success? I think being a sustainable business model, making decisions to grow over time is a decision. Bringing it back to chess, I practice long chess, like classical chess. People don't have the patience for that, like a game in 60 minutes. I also play some bullet. I use them for two different things. I use the bullet to kind of speed up the way that I'm thinking, but I do notice that carries over, that I'm impulsively moving things and I blunder, I miss. I've learned if at the right moments, you identify the right moments, just pause and understand the consequences, the benefit of each actions that you make. And I think you'll make better decisions. We hear this a lot. Stop and smell the roses. I don't know if we truly know what that means until we get a little bit older and realize, man, I really wish I did smell the roses. I wish I enjoyed the journey, because when I get to the end, memento mori, it's the same for everybody. The end is the same. So let's enjoy the journey. Let's grow through the journey.
Yes. One of the things that I've found to help is for people I care about, I'll ask them regularly. I won't say every day, but I try to every day ask somebody, what made you happy today?
Mm-hmm.
What's the little thing, right? And it's important. So stopping to smell the roses to me means, I sleep with my window open. Right now we're getting a little detailed, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I sleep with the window open year round. One of my favorite things, especially in the spring, is when I hear the birds chirping outside the window at 4:30 in the morning. I get up pretty early most days, and I love, long before the sun decides to rise, hearing those birds chirping. Just
Yeah,
little songbirds, especially in the spring, hanging out in the trees. At one of my businesses, I like to sit out on the patio before the days get busy, have my coffee or drink my mate, and just listen to the birds, watch the birds. That's stopping and smelling the roses, right? It's stepping back at the house when the kids are playing, having fun, playing Pictionary, or what's this one where they act out things that they read words on
charades.
pages. Yeah, that one. Thank you. Just sitting back and watching them, right? Just those are the moments where I step back and smell the roses, right? That for me, and it's important to do that. And you can make it a habit. You can make it a
Yes,
discipline, right? And one of the things that's helped me do that is this whole virtue of moderation, right? We'll remind the listeners and ourselves that the highest good is being a person of good moral character, excellent character, right? And the way to do that is to live in harmony with nature. And the way to do that is by practicing the virtues that we've talked about, right? In these episodes. And so if we reflect on that and we truly believe, okay, the greatest good and our real purpose in this life is to be a person of high moral character and to practice the virtues, we'll remember that moderation teaches us that everything is borrowed, right? Even our kids are borrowed, right? And
hmm
so, again, I'm reflecting a lot on this, but it's really helped me to stop and smell the roses. And remember, the Stoics teach us that there's very few things we have full control over, and one of them is how we think about things. Okay. And so, where a lot of the pain comes from in life, from losing something, it's because we assumed or we thought or we taught ourselves that it's ours and
hmm
it's mine. So you took it away from me, right? Something as simple as your spot in a line. If somebody cuts in line, you lose your mind when you've been sitting in traffic, right? Because that's my spot. I earned
That's
that
right.
spot. But as a Stoic, we would say, it's borrowed. It's not
Yeah.
mine. It's not my spot. Control what I think about it, right? And I'll take it a little deeper. The hurt comes when we lose something from our unrealistic thoughts. Okay. And so if you assume that good health is your right, then even having a simple cold or getting a disease or an illness will seem unjust and cause you to lose your mind, to get frustrated, to get angry, right? Even your health is something you don't have full control over, right? If you assume that your job will last forever, spent 20 years at this company, I've earned a right to be here forever, guess what? It could be gone tomorrow, right?
That's
There's
right.
every day I hear of some new layoff in this country, right? And that's super impactful for people. And the reason it causes so much anxiety and so much stress is because there was this unfair assumption or unfair thought process that it was going to last forever. As a
Mm-hmm.
stoic, we would reflect regularly on none of this stuff lasts forever. Therefore, if it's not going to last forever, learn to enjoy it while it lasts because it will be gone, right? And so there's this concept in stoicism called negative visualization, right? And I'm going to go back to memento mori for a minute. The Stoics teach us regularly, reflect on your death, reflect on the end of all of this stuff, and become at peace with it so that you can then use that peace as a motivator to live the life you want to live before it's all gone, whether it's tomorrow or 50 years from now, right?
Yeah.
We've done a good job in this humanity to extend our lives to 80, 90 years old, right? I think the average age of death in this country right now for males is 78 or 79 years old. Just
Sounds
100
right.
years ago, it was probably in the 60s, and before that, it was in the 50s, right? And so the lives were much shorter. So we've extended it, but what we haven't done in a lot of ways is extend the quality of the life. What are we
Right.
doing? Now we're working to 67, 68, 69, 70 years old, right? So I'm not saying that's good. In fact, I'm saying probably the opposite. And so my view is we need to be thoughtful about how we think about things, like a layoff. If we accept that things are only yours for a short amount of time, whether it's a day, a week, a month, a year, 20 years, right? And realize that when it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
And then leverage that thought process to find a way to enjoy it while we have it, like our kids when they're young, or our job while we have it, or a house that we own, or a company that we run. All of a sudden, we get to a place where we've done the right level of negative visualization so that when it's gone, we don't lose our minds and we can still be happy. Now we got that peace inside of us. And that's why we practice meditations. That's why we practice negative visualization. And that's why we practice that whole thought and the concept of temperance and moderation.
Yeah, it's discipline and thought. When I think about being a good stoic, acting with intention, you have to be thoughtful. You have to reflect. You mentioned balance and harmony. You want to stay in balance. You don't want to act out of the natural order of things. This quote from Epictetus that no man is free who is not master of himself is meaningful to me. How do you master yourself? We've talked about the things you can control and can't control. The number one thing you control is your thoughts and your reaction. And everything that you do is a cost to, as I mentioned. There's a cost of action, there's a cost of inaction. I think you choose wisely those things that you do. And how you can take the power back in your life is pausing, being thoughtful, controlling that thing, make an intentional decision. Don't give in to your impulses because they may lead to you be out of balance, out of harmony. Just as you mentioned, if I go to a all you can eat buffet, that act in itself is not evil or good, right? That's what a stoic would say. It's my actions as I go through that buffet line. Do I take well beyond what I need? Am I overeating where then I go home and I'm sick? It's a great example because we can apply that to all types of or all areas in our life. And I think that's what we're asking people to do today. So I think a great challenge would be restraint is power. Uh, that's a quote from us here at Virtue and Victory. And pick an area in your life, start small, deliberately practice temperance for a day, 2 days a week, and share your journey. We want to build a community with you.
Let us know how we can help. Start small. Reflect on the things in your life, all of them, and begin to accept that it's borrowed. In fact, if you want to practice it, ask a close friend to let you borrow something and then go give it back. And then ask another friend, may I borrow something? And then go give it back. And then start doing that with the bigger things in life. And then start practicing negative visualization and realize quickly that the way to be at peace and the way to find real joy is realizing that everything is borrowed. Everything has an expiration date. Nothing will last forever. And leverage that and use it as a motivator. And ask yourself, okay, if my life were to end today, what would I have regretted not doing? And then go do that thing. That's what Marcus Aurelius invites us to do regularly, right? And so if we reflect regularly on the smallness of time that we have, and we zoom out like we've talked about, and see it as just a tiny little amount of time that we truly have, and not always wait for the things that we want to do and always say, well, we'll do it next year, or we'll do it the year after. Just go do it. Find a way to get it done. Find a way to get it done, because you owe it to yourself. Because when you reflect back on your life, whether it's tomorrow, next week, next month, or 40 years from now, you want to be able to say, I did everything I possibly. You don't want to have regrets. You don't want to have regrets. And that's the whole concept of Stoicism, is loving fate, amor fati, memento mori, realizing we will die, and leveraging it as a motivator to say, okay, what do I need to accomplish in this short life that I have? What are my contributions to society going to be? How am I going to contribute to the cosmopolis? How am I going to help people live better lives? How am I going to contribute to the happiness or the health or the joy of somebody else? And that's where real joy comes in, and that's where real happiness comes in. And so reflect on it, ask yourself, and then decide what action you're going to take.
Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Doug.